If you would have told me that when I started this as a teenager, that I would still be doing this 50 years later, you'd say, you're
It's
nuts.
like almost two different bands that you have.
It's all about riffing, 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 riffing.
He might be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Lots of rock and roll and lots of sex. How about that?
It doesn't really belong to Accept.
Tried to run up this hill by himself, and we had to run behind the van.
But you're the captain of the ship.
They never fall out of the sky. I never wake up with an idea for a metal song and, oh, I got to record this because it's complete in my head. It doesn't work that way for me.
Hello, metal pilgrims, and a very special welcome to all of the Accept fans on this special episode, because today I'm more than happy to welcome nobody else but Wolf Hoffmann on the show. Wolf, thank you so much for finding time and joining me. How are you, man?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm good. I'm as good as I can be here, of course, given the circumstances. But you know, heavy metal keeps us going, and it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. My late father, was a huge Accept fan, so I grew up on your music, man. So it's absolutely
wow.
to have you.
You know, that is always interesting to me. I'm always wondering because I've been doing this for so many years now,
Yeah.
and I've been every time that we're on stage somewhere that I see a bunch of fans that have been following us. You can definitely tell they're older, they're maybe in their 60s now. But there's also a lot of young kids, and I've always wondered, like, how do they find out about Accept? Is it the parents who tell them? And I guess you're a proof that yes, that exists.
I already have a kid of my own who will be going hopefully to your shows.
See? See? Yeah, it's a multi-generational thing. I love it.
Isn't it awesome?
Beautiful.
That's what heavy metal unites us, right? It's amazing.
That's right. It's brilliant.
So, Wolf, obviously the biggest news about Accept these days is the release of your new upcoming studio album, Humanoid, which will be out in just over a week. So first of all, congrats, man. Congrats on the release. I know it can be tough these days. So before we dive into anything else, can you tell us a little bit more about the creative process behind it and whether it was any different for you, given, the band's lineup changes and everything Accept has been through recently?
See, the creative process has really not ever changed over the years that much. I would say it's like this. We're done touring and we know it's time for a new album because fans are asking about it and the label is saying, hey, we're ready for a new album whenever you guys are. So we know it's time to write new songs. And whenever touring allows us to come to take the time, we'll basically tell each other, like, hey guys, it's time to come up with ideas. Everybody go home and go into their studio and start coming up with stuff. And then some guys deliver stuff, some guys don't. It's just the way. Not everybody in the same band is a songwriter. So it usually is I write the majority of it, but I always invite everybody to contribute as much as possible. Uwe Lulis brought some songs to the table. Martin Motnick came up with some lyrical stuff that was really cool, and the rest of the lyrics is usually written by Mark Tornillo. And the way it is, I just sit here a lot of times alone with my drum machine and my guitar and start riffing away until I have something that I kind of like, and then I start building on that, and then I put it away. And then the next day I go at it again and again and again and again for weeks until I have a pile of melodies and songs and half-finished songs together. And then together with the other guys' stuff, we bring all that pile of musical sketches and ideas to Andy, and we ask Andy Sneap, our producer, what do you think of this stuff? Is there anything that's worth recording? And yeah, that's how we start. And then we start building songs from all the material that we have.
So it really didn't change for you since the 80s.
Since the dawn of time, yeah. It always starts with you and with a guitar and an idea. And I can't even tell you where these ideas really come from. But I can tell you they never fall out of the sky. I never wake up with an idea for a metal song and, oh, I got to record this because it's complete in my head. It doesn't work that way for me. I actually have to I have to get into the zone and I have to tell myself, okay, it's time to work. Get your ass into the studio and lock the door and don't come out until you have something.
So does this whole fact that you have to be steering the ship, because no matter what, of course, the guys are coming up with ideas, whether they are or not, it doesn't really matter, right? But you're the captain of the ship, and you have been for quite a long time now. So, and the whole fact that, it doesn't come easy for you, did it ever make you want to quit at this point? Or you still get the kicks the same as you did when you were a teenager?
Well, I've kind of had my early retirement when the band was not in existence in the early 2000s and such. There was a number of years where I was away from music, and I actually thought my musical days were over altogether. There was a time in my life when I didn't touch the guitar, didn't think about playing, and I thought, okay, that was a great time in my life. I had a lot of fun in the 80s, and that was it.
Mhm.
And then it all changed when we met Mark Tornillo and we restarted the band 15 years ago. Uh, and so there's no reason for me to even think about retiring anymore, because this is what I love. This is what I like doing. And yeah, I'm the guy steering the ship, but that's only because I'm the only guy who's never left the band. I've been doing this for all these years, and now I'm the last man standing. So I feel it as my duty almost to steer the ship and to keep the band rolling. And yeah.
So do you think that with Morten and Philip in the band now, and with them being with Accept for the second album in a row at this point, do you think that this lineup opens up a new chapter for Accept? And basically, do you believe that this will be that stable lineup that will continue going on no matter what?
I don't know. Nobody knows what the future will bring, and there, as far as, I think you have to be aware that there's two distinct processes. The one is recording the album,
Mhm.
and then the other one is going on tour and representing the album. And that does not necessarily, we don't record all together in the studio a lot of times, just for the mere fact that I write most of this stuff, and then some guys are far apart. I mean, we usually get together and record certain things like the drums. We always have Andy Sneap come over to Nashville, record here, and when it's time to record the drums, Christopher comes in, but then he leaves. He's done with his drum parts, and then Mark comes in and does his vocal parts, and Motnik comes in and does the bass part. So we're all basically together in small groups, but it's not like we are together as a band to record to go over the whole recording process all together at all times. It's a bit of a smaller group effort, really. And then, of course, when it's time to go on the road, we all get together and rehearse the stuff, and then it's more of a group thing there.
And by the way, talking about Andy and his work, I'm a huge fan of his work. Whatever he does
Yeah,
with
he's
Accept,
amazing.
whatever he does with Judas Priest, with Saxon, he always does a great job. But Rob Halford told me he might be a bit of a pain in the ass because he's a perfectionist. Is he the same way with you guys as well?
Yeah, he has been. I mean, since the day we met him, I would actually say he's more relaxed now. See, when we first met him, this all these years ago, he came basically out of the scene of thrash metal, where it was all about riffing, 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 riffing. And the vocals also only were like of lesser important, I would say, in that sort of genre, in thrash and that. Yeah, it's not about the melody so much. It's really all about the riffing and the tightness of the riffs and such. So he made me, yeah, he really worked me to death on these riffs initially, and all the rhythm guitars, I'd say. He was so picky on rhythm guitars. I mean, every little noise had to be, I have to do it again and again until it's totally clean. And I was thinking, dude, in the end, you're not gonna make that much of a difference if you get it super tight. But he was all about it, and I was always more focused on vocals. I think, like, in the end, it's all about the vocals, But I think now that he has worked more with like these Judas Priest type bands that are also song oriented or song based bands more than thrash, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So he realizes, or he's come around a bit, and now we spend more time on the vocal stuff, which is good to me, because I think that really makes a bigger difference than anything. In the way that certain melodies are said or the rhythming. I mean, there's so many nuances that you can do with vocals. And he's relaxed a little on the rhythm guitar stuff. So there's been a certain change over the years, I'd say. But Andy is an amazing producer. I can't thank him enough. He's like the man.
as you know, I'm from Ukraine, and you of course have a lot of fans here, right?
Love the Ukraine. I mean, we wish we could come back there. It's such a pain in the ass that because of world politics and shit. I mean, there's metal fans who want to hear us. We would love to come. We would love to go to Russia. Same thing, because we don't have any. I mean, it's terrible, and everybody suffers right now. It's a horrible. But anyhow, go on.
Yeah, anybody's suffering, but I wouldn't. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't put in the same basket the way Ukrainians are suffering and the way Russians are suffering for not being able to go to metal.
No, I didn't mean. No, of course not. I didn't mean it that way. But I mean, metal fans in general are affected by this, and musicians are affected by it, and it's just a shame. That's what I meant. I didn't mean.
Yeah. So, do you think the whole idea that there is a new within Europe, within just a couple of 100 kilometers away from you, and in the places where you used to go, quite often before, right? Do you think it affected, crippled into the songwriting process on this album, whether in music or lyrically, in one way or another? Because as a Ukrainian, I felt like I could resonate with at least some of the lyrics on Humanoid.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we've always been a band that has been sort of influenced by what's going on. We try to write lyrics that are really relevant to what's going on in the world, and we have written a lot of songs in about, and world general politics, social contents, and on this album we focused on some other stuff as well, just like Humanoids, talking about artificial intelligence and basically what's going on in the world for sure. So yeah, we've and I mean personally, I think it's terrible what's going on there right now. I would have never in a million years would have anticipated anything like that. That so close to the Central Europe. I mean, there's going on. I mean, nobody, and I think it took everybody by surprise. Nobody was prepared for it in the West at least. And yeah,
we didn't believe until the very last moment that it could happen in the 21st century, that someone can just literally attack and
yeah,
our lives would turn into before and after, unfortunately, for all
right. Yeah.
But going back to the record itself, despite it of course being recorded in the 21st century, and despite Andy Sneap working in it, and the whole fact that you've been working it in groups and not the way you did it back in the 80s, it is still a very old school sounding album, and it is a very much of an undeniably Accept-like sounding record. It's one of those that you hear the opening riff and you're just immediately like, oh, that's Accept. I know that it is Accept.
Yeah, on purpose. Yeah.
So when writing new music, do you usually go out of your way to try to give your loyal fans basically exactly what they want with that trademark Accept sound, or does it come to you naturally?
It happens automatically. I'm not even trying to be that. But having said that, there's sometimes when I told you we collect all the material and we will bring it to Andy. When the songwriting process always starts like this. I write a bunch of stuff, Uwe writes a bunch of it, and I ask everybody, hey, let me hear ideas. Whoever has any riffs, any stuff that is usable for Accept, let's put it in the pot. And I write a lot of stuff, and in the end I write the majority of the stuff. But then we take that whole pile and give it to Andy and say, hey man, can you take a listen and see if we've got anything worth recording here, and give us your outside opinion basically. And then he'll pick just the stuff that he thinks is the most Accept sounding, and that what he as an Accept fan would like the most. And yeah, a lot of that stuff is my riffing and my ideas, and it happens without even trying. But sometimes there's stuff that definitely outside of what we all consider Accept, where I thought like, oh, this is interesting. I really like that personally, but I have to realize that maybe sounds a bit like somebody else, or it sounds a little out of our direction or whatever. So then
Whenever
we
there's a
don't.
new sound coming in, you feel like it doesn't really belong to Accept. You try to hold off to it until the better time, like until you can make it sound to Accept.
No, it's just when it doesn't feel right. You get this gut feeling where I think like, yeah, maybe it's okay, but maybe it doesn't really sit right with us. And it's something that you can't really define. You can't really put your finger on it sometimes. It's just a gut feeling. And I think we all have it. I have it, and certainly Andy has it too. When you know it, oh, this one feels great, this one feels right. And it's weird, man. Because I try to record everything, even when I know already the melody or the song that's taken shape in front of my very eyes might not make the cut in the end, but I always just sort of record it just for fun, because you never know what you could do with it later on. Sometimes you can sort of change it slightly and it still ends up being in the song somewhere. But what I lost my train of thought. Anyhow.
Well, this year overall is huge for heavy metal, right? New Saxon album, new Judas Priest album, Bruce Dickinson, I don't know, you name it. It's a lot. And of course, the new Accept album. So why do you think it is so? Why do you think there is such a huge resurgence in interest to this classic heavy metal now, especially after the 90s, when many thought that, this classic metal sound is pretty much dead? You as well, right? I mean, doing photography for quite some time, you
Yeah.
never thought you would come back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm just happy that it is that way, to be honest. I mean, I'm not trying to overthink it or anything. It's just a phenomenon that I certainly, I notice it too, and I'm very happy about it because, a lot of the acts, like you just mentioned, they're all up there in age too, right? I mean, they all have been doing it for 50 years, all four of them. And so are we. And we're just glad that there's still a demand for this kind of stuff. And sometimes I can't even believe it, that these metal festivals, all these headliners are the same guys that have been doing it 20 years ago or 30, 40 years ago in some cases. So it's crazy. I mean, unfortunately, somebody like Motorhead, they're no longer around. So maybe it's the fact that people appreciate it, like, and think like, let's see them while we can, that kind of thing. That's always,
Man, I know it sounds weird, but one of the biggest and the most popular questions, which so many fans, when I announced that I'll be doing an interview with you and later on with Mark, wanted me to ask both of you actually, is if there is any secret routine that you use to keep yourself in such a great shape. So is there any secret to it? I mean, I assume no sex, drugs, and rock and roll anymore, huh?
No drugs, lots of rock and roll and lots of sex. How about
that? That's the secret then. Just no drugs.
That's the secret. Exactly. Just sex and rock and roll. Forget the drugs. Yeah, and I guess I'm not doing anything super special. I just watch what I eat and I don't let myself go, basically. I have a certain, I guess at the end of it, it's also genetics that have a huge role. But I don't have anything super hardcore that I do. I do sports when I can. I go to the gym when I can, but I don't go every day. And I kind of watch what I eat. I don't drink, so that helps. But
so we're just gonna count you're lucky, okay, man?
Maybe.
And as you mentioned, in a couple of years, you guys will be celebrating your 50th anniversary. First of all, can you believe that? It's freaking mind.
No, it's mind blowing. I mean, if you would have told me that when I started this as a teenager, that I would still be doing this 50 years later, you'd say, you're nuts. It's impossible. No.
So do you guys plan to do anything extraordinary and special for your 50th anniversary?
Yes, because everybody's asking for it, and you're not the first one.
Of course.
I mean, I've done a lot of interviews now for this album. Everybody wants to know what we're doing for the 50th anniversary. And I think we have to do something, but I haven't even thought about it yet. No, I honestly haven't.
Well, this is something that you absolutely have to do because there's quite a lot of stuff you also haven't been playing for quite a long time, right? I mean, you haven't played much from your first two albums for a number of years now already. So it would be great if you guys could revive some of those old school songs, which many fans grew up on as well, right? I mean, many fans still love so much, and maybe it's to do something extraordinary and special. Who knows?
Yeah, we should. And a lot of fans also tell us we should do special shows with just playing some songs from the new album or the new era with Mark.
Yeah,
Because we've got so many great songs on these last six albums that we could definitely pull that off easily.
absolutely.
That'd be a lot, very unique show.
Do you, in your head, by the way, like, do you feel like, in a way, because of the break Accept had in the early 2000s, do you feel like it's like almost two different bands that you have?
Not for me, because I've been in both, and to me, it's a continuation, just with different lineups and such. But it is definitely two different eras. I would definitely see that. And oddly enough, when I think about the old times, that includes the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, I think about a lot of ups and downs and breaks, and it's kind of all over the place. Where the last six albums with Mark is almost like a straight line to me in my mind. It's almost like a continuation of a very. I mean, when we were reunited and Blood of the Nations came out, and since then, it's been smooth sailing in a stylistic way and also success kind of way. It's been going really, really well, steady up, and there was no, left or right turns. It was really just going straight
Interesting
forward.
enough, if you think about it, the Mark era will soon become the longest era Accept has ever had.
It already is. In the longest, yeah, it already is.
Well, talking about those 50 years, to close this episode, can you please tell us one of the craziest stories which has happened to you on the road together with Accept?
I don't know. There's been many, many, many really funny things. I remember one night, um, I think it was in Bogotá or someplace. I mean, it wasn't really that funny, but at that moment it was hilarious because we had to go to the airport like super early. We had a late night show. We maybe slept for 2 hours in the hotel, and we were driving like I'd say 4 a.m.
Mhm.
up these super steep mountains to get to the airport. Was it Bogota? Someplace. I can't remember the detail, but it was one of those South American cities that where the airport was super high elevated. And in any case, the city was deserted and it was pitch black. And we were driving in this tiny van with all the maybe 8 people or something, but tiny van. I'm not talking small, tiny. And then eventually that van got slower and slower and slower, and the driver just stopped and said, basically, guys, you have to get out. We're not going to make it up the hill unless you get out. So I can, and then he had to back up and try to run up this hill by himself, and we had to run behind the van to catch up, and then we were allowed back in, and we all had a laugh because it was like slapstick.
Well, that's awesome,
And
man. Hopefully, you guys will be able, hopefully, I will be able to see you guys once again very, very soon. Miss you, haven't seen you for a couple of years now, and I hope that you guys will be able to come to Ukraine very, very soon, and you'll have more amazing
hopefully, and
memories soon.
that would be amazing. Until then, enjoy the new album,
Uh,
Humanoid, out April 26th, and I hope to see you guys very, very soon. And all the best. Stay safe, okay?
Thanks, man. This was Wolf Hoffmann of Accept, and their new studio album, Humanoid, will be out soon. Check it out if you love classic heavy metal, and of course, if you are an Accept fan. Wolf, thank you so much for finding time and joining me today. Keep rocking, man.
You're welcome, my friend. Take it easy.